right, welcome back to another Architecture Rundown.
Today we're going to be joined by a fellow university colleague and project architect, Nicole Franzese.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
What's going on?
Anytime. So to give you guys a quick rundown, we're going to be asking her a couple of questions that we think can be very informative to all of you practicing architecture or in an architectural educational setting. Do you want to take it away?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first question is going to be, what type of style of architecture firm do you work for?
Currently, I'm working in a small office for about 7 people, 2 project managers, 2 project architects, the principal, and then just the office manager that handles all the accountants.
Okay.
So
And when it comes to your office, do you guys typically do everything from start to finish, or are you like some offices that only do the schematic design phase and the design development phase?
We normally do it all. Our principal will select somebody to start a project. And once you get that project assigned to you, you go from as-builting all the way through until the construction is done. And you get to see it through. Me as a project architect, I actually go hand in hand either directly with the principal or with the project manager, and we collaborate with design and just to see the project through that way.
Nice. Have you gotten a project to CA yet?
We've gotten a few projects done with PAs.
Nice.
But yeah.
Those are kind of like the projects that I've been waiting for in the office. That's where we are right now with the ones I'm heading. So I'm kind of curious to see who's gotten their projects to CA and like what to expect.
Right.
So,
Yeah, must be exciting, right? Seeing everything like come alive.
yes.
See ones.
That's the only thing that I wish, because of my position, I got to see more is the construction process. Even though we do it all, normally it's the project manager or the principal that goes on to site and gets to see actually how the project is come through. And then once it's completely finished, that's when I'll go in just to take professional pictures for our website and things like that. But that's kind of the phase that I'm trying to get my foot in the door with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you have a construction background, correct? Like you've worked in a construction office before.
Right.
Do you see that as being kind of a leverage maker for you to get more experience in the construction phase? Like, are you using any tools that you learned in that office, in this office, and vice versa?
Oh, I think just having construction knowledge as an architect is mandatory. And that really helped me a lot getting into the field, or once I graduated and actually started working for an architecture firm, because at least when we draw details, I know how things come together and how they're actually built because I was in the field. And a lot of architects that I know that had just finished school, and they don't have that advantage, and they struggle with having to finish those details, those nitty-gritty details that actually make the project come together and help the contractor to build it the way you design and think of it. So yeah, I think it does help it. But as far as software-wise, not really. I was more involved also with estimating phases, from permitting, issuing permits, and talking with the subs and getting estimates, kind of roughly EA.
Yeah.
Like administration-wise. And then I would go out into the field once in a while, just check up on projects and see if there's any mistakes or if there's anything that we missed and things like that. But no, it does help a lot. And I recommend anybody studying architecture having to go to at least the site, having some construction knowledge. That really does help.
Yeah. Going back to that, I think what you said is so important, right? The fact that we should know what our consultants do, right? We should have some type of prior knowledge in those fields. I myself didn't do construction specifically, but I did work for an engineering company for about 2 years. And I did mostly fire alarm and electrical drawings. And it's been such a useful tool now working, professionally as an architect, because I'm able to read MEP drawings. I'm able to fix them. I'm able to see things that are wrong with them. And I'm even able to create some of them myself. And I think, knowing how something comes together, knowing how something is built, knowing how a detail should work, I think that's so important. And like you said, a lot of architects or people like us that are graduating from school, they only want to focus on the design part. right? Which is, I mean, that's personally what I like. That's what I love, and that's what I want to do. But I think that all of us should be a jack of all trades, a master of some. I don't agree with the whole master of none ideal, but you should be a jack of all trade, and you should be aware and cognizant of all the moving pieces that come together to formulate your final project. So
yeah, and that just provides us not to have less mistakes in the end. Yeah. And if you have communication throughout and you know how things are being built, then there shouldn't be really too many mistakes where the client just at the end result ends up being happy and then wants to reuse you again.
Yeah, exactly.
It's that broadening of the tool belt, kind of like what Patel taught us, our undergrad professor. He always said to learn something new in each design phase, and you could obviously take that into the working field as well.
Yeah. And what would you say is the main program that your company specifically uses for a small company, right?
For a small company, because this company has been ongoing for about 30 years, so they've started always with AutoCAD and tried mastering just that one program because it's what was used the most at the beginning of time. And now that I feel that we're moving into this BIM technology with Revit and all these other 3D softwares, that as a recent graduate, I could bring a lot of value in for this company because just of having this knowledge and then being able to teach my coworkers and to become successful and competitive with other studios and firms and that are going into the same field. And I think it's important.
Yes. Absolutely. What would you say you guys specifically use for when it comes to 2D modeling, 3D modeling, and then post-production? Like what program specifically?
Well, we only do typically 2D modeling just with AutoCAD.
Okay.
And that's how we design everything.
And the little bit of 3D modeling that you mentioned, you guys only do it in Revit, I would imagine?
We do that in Revit, and we only do it when the client specifically asks for 3D perspectives of renderings and things like that. And that's when we model it. I'm sorry?
The renderings, what do you guys typically use when it comes to the
we use Lumion.
Okay.
This is all just because helping out the firm. Normally we used to outsource it, and then I've tried to convince my principal to have us do and get more experience that we don't have to outsource it and we have more things under our belt.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Is that part of like something you would tell students, let's say that your D1 self, what would you tell students starting off right now? Like what's something that they should strive to get better at? What field, what skill would you kind of like recommend they get better on?
Honestly, I would recommend them just to take their time in learning a software and knowing it kind of well, but also trying to do a lot of learn various software because you never know what software can be useful for what things. And we tend to go back and forth with different softwares just to get the end result that we want.
Yeah.
So I think you kind of should know it all, at least a little bit, all the way through. And that would really help.
Yeah, that's so important, right? You're aiming to get to an end result. And that's something that I constantly tell my students. That's something that I constantly tell people. When I say that your progress doesn't matter, I mean your progress and what software you're using to get to your end result, right? I mean, you might use, let's say, Revit, Chris might use Rhino, and I might use SketchUp. And at the end of the day, if we get to the same result, I think it's fine, right? Yeah. So even though you have a software that you should be comfortable with and one that you like the most, obviously, I think, as you said, that we should be versatile when it comes to learning programs. Because as years go by, as more people graduate, as new technologies arise, right, we have to be constantly in the move and we're pretty young. So we're going to be in the whole cycle of learning new programs coming out for the decade to come. And architecture is something that's moving so rapidly in this technologically evolving world, and it's something that I feel like we can't just ignore.
Yeah.
Right?
No, we can't.
Our profession is tied to that, whether we want to or not.
Yeah. Which
definitely is.
You kind of see like the newer school architects kind of do what you're saying in a sense, because I don't know, both of our both of our firms, or all three of our principals, use more old school means of conveying things and technical skills. So, it's something that you have to be aware of, and efficiency is key.
Yeah. For Chris and I, before us, they typically only did 2D modeling, and we have been convincing and pushing for 3D modeling. We do presentations now in-house. I've been doing renderings in-house. Before, they didn't do that many renderings, and from what we've seen, most of the presentation work they did before was very, let's say, basic.
Yeah.
Not really finely detailed, and that's something that both of us have been constantly pushing for and trying to bring to the table. As you said, the more value that we can add, and the more money,
and the less that we can outsource, that we can just do it all ourselves. Why not?
The more resources,
so much money, and for what?
The more resources you can save for the company by using the skills that the workers bring to the table. Because even though we're young, and I feel like the fact that we're young and sometimes we say we can do some things, like some of the principals might not want to rely on us as much or give us that much trust.
Right.
It's kind of our right to show them otherwise, and to bring to clearly show them how much value we can actually bring.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I also think it's also a task to motivate us as architects to continue and kind of break the cycle of all the repetitive work that we have to do, because unfortunately it is a cycle. You get a project, you go through all the same phases to get to your end result, but then adding something in 3D or adding a rendering, it just breaks the cycle, and it makes it more interesting and motivates you to keep doing more and wanting to get better. So
yeah, like Chris and I in our company, we typically work on government projects. And from what we see so far, they're, like you said, it's a cycle, right? They all start blending in and looking the same. And we've taken it upon ourselves to kind of really push our company and kind of imprint our ideas on what a project should look like, right? It shouldn't look like everything that's been before, right? It shouldn't look like a project that was made 10, 20, 30 years ago. Right?
And kind of what you're saying is typologies don't need to look the way they did, kind of like what you said 10, 20 years ago.
Right.
Public housing doesn't need to look like public housing from the 90s. Government work doesn't need to look like government work from the 90s. So
public housing, affordable housing, simply by doing something as simple as a color palette, right? That doesn't take any more resources. It doesn't take any more, money, but it brings so much value and so much social value, right? Just because, again, even though it's affordable housing, it doesn't have to feel like it's only for a lower class of people.
No, everybody should feel like they're entitled to have something nice in their lives, no matter what their circumstances are. And us as architects, I feel like it's our responsibility and job to make that happen, and always think of the user of the space, not necessarily, even though obviously the client, but the user overall, because they're the ones that we're trying to make happy.
Yeah.
And not the other way around. Yeah,
it's our duty to make enriched, high quality spaces, right? Regardless of the budget, regardless of the client.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something so important, because it's kind of our duty and it's our task to make this world better for everyone in it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I think that kind of leads somewhat into one of the questions that I kind of thought of if it wasn't architecture, it was kind of a two-part question. If it wasn't architecture, what field would you have gone into? And then also, Ramses thought of this one, with the architectural knowledge that you have now, what field would you go into if you weren't studying architecture or practicing architecture?
Oh, those are good questions. I always ask myself if I could ever imagine myself doing something else that's other than architecture. And honestly, it has been really hard. I love architecture with a passion.
Yeah.
And I couldn't imagine myself doing anything else because I love it so much. I enjoy it. I don't mind the work that I have to put in or the stress it might bring or anything, because I really enjoy it at the end result. But I guess if I had to choose, maybe I would have done something with communication, something like that, just because it's still communicating. It's still like throwing out a message that you want to send.
Yeah.
I would have probably gone with that. And now knowing of what I did, not, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, do some type of
like
renderings on the side. I don't know, like, yeah, like interior design, maybe just to do for small residential clients, even though it's still tied into it. But that's a really hard question. I honestly don't really know.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, Chris and I have gone over this in a video with them before, but I feel like architecture has done such an amazing job at giving you this universal education when it comes to art, design, like you said, communication, marketing, because we kind of have to implement all those traits, and we kind of have to like develop all those skills, and we need to make sure that we're not only a person that can design, right, but we're a person that can design, we can sell a project, we can create a presentation, we have charisma because we need to talk to our clients. And even though at the end of the day, it's what your client wants, if you want to get what you want, you need to somehow slip that under the rug with your charisma, right? So it's, I don't know, I feel like we have the versatility of going into so many different branches of, I guess, like different fields with our education.
There's so many possibilities, and
it's difficult.
Such artsy people that
I feel the same way you feel. Like, I can't imagine myself not doing this, right? Like, as much as I would love to do other design things, which I will do eventually, I will always aim to have an architectural practice.
100%.
I guess me three, but like I've kind of like, I mean, even before architecture school, I kind of juggled with architecture or journalism, and I was going to go the REM Cool House route. But now having the architectural knowledge I have, like obviously kind of like what you guys both said is, you know, this stuff kind of like takes you away, and you kind of get like dragged into it, and then you fall in love with the career, you fall in love with the field, the late nights, just ideas. But it probably definitely would have been like audio production and like cinematography, content creation, you know, stuff that I want to do now. So, you know, might as well take advantage of it while we have time.
I fell in love with it. I went into architecture on a whim. Right, I started university as an engineering student, and then literally before we started, I switched my major because I wanted to do the pretty side of engineering, right, for lack of a better word. So I ended up going for architecture, and I was not really completely invested in it. And as the years went by, everything just started clicking, and I fell in love with the field and this aspect of community, and the fact that you can't really be on your own. Like, you could be, but I don't think it's as successful as developing all these friendships, right? It's
always good to have a good network.
It's so good networking, and I don't think I ever had a single all-nighter where I was like mad. Like, I was mad that I wasn't sleeping, I was mad that I was in school, obviously, but we all spent it together, right? We were there at the nights, and you develop such good friendships. And that whole communal aspect, I think, that specifically is what made me fall in love with it and stick to it. Right? If it wasn't for that, I don't think I would have
like stuck with it.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
I actually have like a follow-up to kind of what you said. We've gone over that conversation maybe like 4 or 5 times, you and I. But before we get to our last question, how do you switch from, you've even said it before, you know, you struggled a lot, and then you turn like this switch on, and you started outperforming a lot of people, and you know that I guess gray area, we can call it. How do you get from one end of the spectrum to the next, or was it just like one night you woke up and that was it?
So I woke up one day, and I had this professor in D6, Arnaldo Sanchez, right? He changed my whole perspective on architecture. He opened my eyes, and that was in my third year of school. That was my first year of grad school, or like
the second semester of the first year.
Second semester of grad school, yeah.
Yeah, the second half of grad school, and he opened my eyes to architecture in a way that no other teacher before him did.
Yeah.
And he was so harsh, man.
He was.
Right, we had him.
He was. I had him for D5. As soon as they transferred from public for community college, that was amazing. And I got him. It was honestly rude awakening, but much needed.
Exactly.
Much needed.
And I feel like that's something that we need as architects, right? Like, I think it's a big controversial topic when it comes to critiques within the educational field, because like when I would talk to my friends or significant others while I was in school, and the whole idea of going to a critique and just getting torn apart, right? Like spending months working on something.
You knew that they were going to tear you apart regardless.
Yeah. Like that's an alien topic. Like, that's not something that people can comprehend, because typically in other majors, you do your work, you do what you have to do, and you get a good grade.
You get a pat on the head.
Yeah.
Here you can invest your whole life, or like your whole life for like 3 months, and you will get completely wrecked. You'll get trashed on. Your project can be a total failure. Or you can invest, like I did a lot of times, about a week or two, and like your project is a complete success, right? Like it's a different type of art. I always say, right? Art is very arbitrary, and I don't think, not that I'm saying that the hard work doesn't matter. I'm not saying that at all. But it's, I don't know, it goes to show you how someone can work on something for a month and someone can work on something for 5 months, and you guys can end up having the same result, right? Like, it's, in a way, it's not fair.
It just depends on how you approach it and how different people approach it, and just their mentality through it.
Exactly.
Honestly.
And it was exactly that he showed me. He showed me how to formulate a project and be able to develop an idea from beginning to end in a way that is very simple and very concrete. Which is,
and then you don't stray away from being so arbitrary.
You know, like, you could never stray away. Like, the second that you even started straying away a little bit, he will pull you right back in.
Yeah.
And the second you gave him anything that he didn't like, he would say, "Man, this is horrible." You know that, right? Like, he did not care. And he didn't do those things like to harm you or make you feel bad. He said it so innocently, because he was completely honest with us, and that's something that I appreciate so much, because a lot of professors, like,
they'll sugarcoat it so you kind of continue on with the field.
Yeah.
But we don't need that, because you get out in the field and then
the field,
you don't know something, they'll destroy you. Like, you have to know what you need to know. You have to be on your toes all the time. You have to prove to yourself that you can be better, and then even though you're learning from your mistakes, and you have potential. But if you just kind of stay and not really care much, then what's the point, you know?
Yeah, this field is rough. It's really rough. If you want to be a drafter,
but it's worth it, man.
Instead of table and just draw, it's okay. Doesn't matter. But if you want to be anything more than that, you need to have thick skin.
Get ready.
You need to learn how to take criticism, and you need to know that your work and who you are two different animals, and whatever they say about your work is not personal. It's not about you. It's only to help you develop your skills and to help you grow.
Yeah, 100%.
A lot of people take it personal. A lot of people in undergrad, people will cry. People will get, there are times that some professors are a little
too much
aggressive,
right? A little meaner than what they should be, but I feel like it's part of the education.
Yeah.
It really is. And then that's how it's going to be through life too. Nobody's going to be like, "Oh, you didn't do such a good job," but it's okay. No, they're going to tell you how it is, and you have to aim up to it. And I mean, it's your career, it's your job, it's what you've worked for 5 years. You want to show something for it.
Here's a lawsuit. Next time, try harder. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's difficult, man.
It was really hard, but it's so rewarding too. It's so nice. As soon as you did your presentation, you had this like weight lifted off of your shoulders, and you could just relax, and you tried your best. Even whatever the result was, even if they didn't like it, you knew you did your best, and then you learned from it. And the next semester is like, no, I'm going to do better than last semester.
Yeah,
I'm going to do so much better than my first project that I ever thought of. And you work harder. You just tend to work harder, and then you get this work ethic that helps you out in your career in the future when you graduate and you're actually working for a firm. They see that.
And by the way, that first or that class that changed my whole perspective on architecture, I didn't do well in that class.
Neither did that.
Like, I did not do well. I did really bad, actually. All right, I did well at the end. I had a pretty good final project.
Me too.
But he told me that even though I had a really good final project, I didn't do really well throughout the whole semester. So, my grade kind of didn't even out, which is completely acceptable.
Yeah.
Right? But up to this day, we're still in contact. We're good friends. I can say he was my first professor that I created a friendship with. And sometimes I freelance for him. I help him out with projects. He helps me out. And we formed this bond up to this day, years later. And I truly appreciate him. And after him, there was not a single semester where I didn't get an A, or like my project wasn't one of the top projects, because he made me develop this mentality of not being a perfectionist, but always having everything you need to have whenever you need to present, and not just having it for the sake of having something, but having the best project you can possibly have.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, that was what changed my whole school career, professional career, and then everything to this day, everything.
I was lucky enough to have him twice.
Yeah.
And it was both the hardest semesters of grad school. The first semester, which was really hard just because it was a transition, and then the comprehensive design. Yeah. And I was getting married. Right after the semester. So I don't know how I pulled through, but it was so rough. And I feel like he just made me a better architect from the end, honestly.
Everything I am to this day, and everything I've earned to this day, like, I owe it to him. Like, it's thanks to him. And like, he doesn't know that, right? Because
no, you don't get the chance to tell him, and say, "Oh, you've changed my life." Yeah. Well, now with this, maybe he'll see it. But
like, that's exactly what I hope to be for my students, right? Like, I'm currently teaching, and I want to be for my students at least 1% of what he was for me.
Right.
That's amazing.
That's so inspirational too.
Absolutely. And it helps when you have talented kids. His kids are super talented.
Yeah. And you see potential.
Kids
There's so much potential. They're better than we are. They're so much younger. It's crazy.
Yeah. But I think we've learned like so many lessons just from like your perspective and then like our perspective, and kind of going back and forth. We have one very important question that we're going to ask everyone when we interview them. And there's only one right answer. So make sure you come up with the right answer. Team Mies or Team Corbu?
Do I have to pick sides?
Yes.
Yeah, there's only one right answer.
Because they're both great. But if I had to pick, I would say Corbu.
Okay. Goodbye, Nikki. Thank you for being in the show. That was the wrong answer. I'm going to be hanging up now.
Oof.
How can you pick the wrong answer?
Yeah, you picked the wrong answer.
That's not the wrong answer. There is no right answer for that. Corbu paved the way for me and his thinking. Come on.
The same way you're, let's say the other generational architects paved the way for us, and you're talking about creating this new future.
Yeah, fine. You want me to say me?
It's too late now. We already know what you think. No, but that's good. That's kind of like a lighthearted way that we kind of get to understand everybody's architectural thinking, what everything culminated in school down to that one question.
And it says a lot, Nicole.
Some of y'all really like Corbu, and it shows.
Yeah. Fun fact, I was in love with Corbu, right? Before I had like any type of architectural education. And even up to this day, my historical architectural education is not that high, guys. Like, I kind of coasted through it. And even though I am a professor, I know it's not a thing I should be saying, but here I am. When I found out about the 5 principles of architecture, everything I did in undergrad school, I implemented it. Like, I thought it was the greatest creation ever. And then I looked at Mies and I looked at every other architect nowadays, and I don't know.
Mind blown.
Yeah, mind blown. Right? It was like when I first discovered CAD. I'm like, wow, this is great. And then you found out about Revit and SketchUp and Rhino and Fusion, and you're like, okay, like,
yeah,
what am I doing? Right? Or like when I used to use V-Ray, and it was amazing and it was beautiful, and you spend so much time, and you spend like 90% of the time doing your properties, and then like the other times like doing a 20 to 30 minute rendering, and then you find out about Lumion and how anyone can just pick it up,
5 minutes,
click on stuff and throw paint together and click on render, and in 2 minutes it's done. And
yeah.
Oh yeah, I just think the way I think Corbu was so ahead of his time for what he was.
Well, we
just opened the mind. So I don't know. I guess I still like the old school kind of thinking, but with the modern twist, we can make it better.
Yeah, I mean, it shows that you like the old school type of thinking. It shows.
Mm-hmm.
Like I saw it like in your projects, which is good. I like it too. Like I'm not.
Don't total hate on me.
No, I'm not saying that in a bad way at all.
But yeah, I think understanding formal principles, whichever renowned architect you decide to kind of like look after or take as your formula, I think it's important. You figure kind of like a little recipe for your design, and you kind of implement it as so.
Yeah, and it's really cool, right? I mean, like you said, the fact that they have like their own recipes, and it's really nice how like us as architect practitioners and students can look at those recipes and kind of like digest those ideals and start creating, a multiplicity of ideas, mixing each one and create your own recipe, right? I mean,
right.
Most of the time nowadays, not that many things are brand new. Like probably anything you've done has been done already.
Probably.
I believe copying is the best form of flattering, right? Not that I'm encouraging anyone to copy things, but look at what has been done.
No, it's inspirational though.
Yeah.
And then you can always put in your modern twist or your thinking of how to make it different, how to make it stand up, fix what failed.
Exactly. Look at their recipes and look at what's successful and look at what's not successful, especially in this day and age and in the setting that project has.
Right.
Because a lot of architects, even though they have their own recipe, a lot of big name star architects, they kind of ignore everything else. They ignore the client needs, client wants, city context, and they put their finalized recipe right there, no matter what. Right, whether you like it or not, it's this is what it is, and
that's mine. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, and
I'm king.
I don't think that's such a successful way. That's BDE. That's like full blown BDE, and
it's also like a cultural thing. Like within the architecture culture, that was the norm.
Yeah,
because we had agents, architects had agency. They were able to say, you know what, like this is what you got, and that's it. Like I don't really think that flies anymore because we have a little bit of less responsibility. We don't have much, but we have less than before.
I'm very happy that things like that don't fly anymore. Like I believe the architect-client relationship should be something that's of a mutual understanding.
It has to be.
Like as much as back in the day, architects are known for having, this God complex. We shouldn't have that, right? We're people.
Yeah.
We're all people. And we're all trying to understand one another and create something that can be beneficial for everyone.
Right.
And that's something that we definitely need to listen to when it comes to listening to our client needs and the people's need and the city needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. 100%. it's nice to have that client architect relationship. It really is. You just learn new things. You actually get a way to listen to the client of what they actually expect, what they want. Because again, it's for the user. Whoever is using the space, that's what you should think of. And that's how you make a beautiful result that can, structures last over 50 years?
Mm-hmm.
And then get facelifts every 15 or so, depending on how modernist and how run down things look.
Yeah.
So having something that you're going to build for so many years, you want to make sure to leave a mark, and a beautiful mark, not just anything quick and easy and that's what you get and don't get upset. No, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I think that's the real 40-year inspection. If your project still stands the test of time, and not only time when it comes to like how sustainable it is, like as a material, but how efficient it still is as a building that can bring in people.
Right.
Which not a lot of those are. A
lot of them are out there. Imagine if they made that on the 40-year inspection.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty funny.
They'll fail.
But I think that's all of our questions. I think, we learned so much. We got to catch up a little bit, and we appreciate you being our first guest. Very grateful that you were our inaugural guest. Thank you very much.
I am honored. Truly honored.
It's great to see people that we went to school with and graduated with being so successful and having learned so many things. And, I applaud you.
Thank you. No, it is nice to catch up. And our business is all networking. You have to be able to network and never lose touch. And you can always use people and helping each other out to succeed. Nobody should be, I'm the first one to succeed. Ha ha. No, it doesn't exist. We all succeed together as a community and self. And that's how we can increase our pay and all of these other beneficial things in the end as architects. Mm-hmm. Because unfortunately, we're not at the top right now.
I love what you said. We all succeed together.
Absolutely.
I love that. Guys, in school, there are so many competitive people. A lot of your classmates are going to be so competitive, right? I'm competitive myself. I want to be better than everyone, but I don't want everyone to be worse than me.
Right.
I want to be better than everyone, knowing damn well that I'm helping everyone and that we're all doing our best and we're all trying to succeed together.
Yeah.
But a lot of people in school, they want to be better than you, so they're going to make sure that you fail.
Yeah.
Or they're going to backstab you or tell you wrong things, and don't ever be that person. Okay?
There's no need for that, honestly. There really is no need. It is competitive. It's a competitive field, but you never to bring each other down. What do you get off of it,
Exactly. Trust me, when you bring someone down, it doesn't bring you up at all.
No.
Not at all. Comes back to bite you in the ass, believe it or not.
Yeah. Yeah, we know. We've seen it happen more than once.
But that kind of comes to a point, Nicole and I went to an undergrad where it was a really big commuter school. It was a community college. So, there was a rarity or a scarcity of studio culture at times because so many people would go home and then, come to studio only when time arose. And then now since we left, they have, more and more studio culture with meetings and get-togethers. And it's something that I think I would want to do for, our university specifically, is go back and harbor this studio culture and community of alumni and it is a network, so it shouldn't just stop. All right, you graduated. That's one network. These people are still in school. That's one network. No, it should mesh together because there's a lot of talent out there, and we could all create really great things out there together.
Yeah, that's what Chris and I are doing this platform for, right? Not only for ourselves, but we do want to reach out to everyone that's practicing, everyone that's going through the same things we're going through, or anyone that's in high school thinking about architecture or design in general, or anyone in high school, because I feel like there's so many things that I wish I would have known, not only about design, but the culture behind it, the history, figures that we should know about, programs that we should learn about. And it's such a powerful thing, right? Having that whole background knowledge before you go into the field or before you go into like the schooling career. And like you said, we're here to help out one another, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
I feel like it's our duty to lead the generation that comes after us and lead anyone that's, helpless or that wants to be led or wants to be helped.
Even those that are shy and they don't even know where to begin or how to get there. Because I was a first generation student. My parents barely made it to high school. No, my dad didn't go to high school. He finished elementary because he needed to work. It was just the time. My mom didn't finish high school. None of my brothers went to college. And then I had to pay my way through by myself. And it was really hard. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know who to go to see what, if I was doing it right or wrong, until I actually got into studio and design one. Yeah. And that's when you make friends. And then with those same friends, you go throughout your entire career. And then those are become your lifelong friends. And then hopefully in the future, you can actually work again together and create that studio culture. But once you actually end the studio culture, I mean, you start working in a firm in the studio, and guess what? You're working again. You have to be teammates. You're not alone in this field ever.
Yeah.
And you don't succeed alone. That's why it's always important to be together and to rise together. That's the only way people can actually be successful in this field.
We have to be like a union.
A union.
Maybe.
Very passionate.
We should start a union for pay raises for architects.
Oh, yes. Whoa. That is much needed.
Yeah.
Especially in this time.
Especially in Miami.
It's one of the things that I think, both Ramses and I can kind of speak to is a big lesson that we learned right now from the field, at least working for our employer, is something that he's harped on forever is like your license is key.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Your license 100%. Is your leverage, so get your license.
Leverage for everything, for payment,
clientele, for freedom, job security,
everything. Get your license. Guarantee that.
Yeah. And I thought for a long time after I graduated, I was like, I put in all this work. Why do I have to take these 6 tests just to call myself an architect? I shouldn't have to. Yeah. But honestly, it unfortunately, it is how the system works here. I know if you study in any other country, you're automatically an architect. But here we go by liability and rules, and we have to just abide by, and we have to know. And there's a lot of things that I already took the first test, and there was a lot of things of business strategies that I didn't even know because we were never taught this in school. So it is very helpful. It is very helpful because it's the business part of it, It's not the design part. It's the business and how you actually run the business and how to make a profit with that business. Mm-hmm. That really is important to know. And that's why it's better to have your license than to not. It's job security, like you said. It's all these factors that, and then you can do your own thing on the side. You can sign projects, you can build, you can design whatever you want. And then see it being made, make a client happy, put something out there that's absolutely yours. Like, it's so beneficial.
I'm going to answer one of the questions that Chris and I made for you. So if I could tell everyone in school something to start working on right now and something to start learning, is exactly what you said. Learning the business side of architecture. Yeah. Learning how to run a business, learning how to sell yourself, learning how to sell a product, learning how to formulate a whole company and a whole brand. Because I think that's so important. And at least for us, they only showed us that in the last year, in the second half of the last year. And I'm sure that in most schools, they only go over that in 1 or 2 semesters. But that's such an important thing for when we get out. And
brand yourself.
For when you get out, right? Like Chris and I we have been blessed by working in a small company and being with a person that's willing to teach us everything.
How business works. Right.
He's shown us how to run his business. And it's such an amazing thing to see at firsthand, but that's not something that a lot of people are blessed with.
Yeah.
People in
Especially in big corporate companies, you don't get to see that. You have to fight your way through just to get recognized and known. And that's where it becomes really competitive. You might have great benefits and a great job and you really like it, but you don't get to see that hand on hand. You don't have different tasks. You don't have different hats that you get to play with. And
Chris and I, we constantly deal with clients. We deal with consultants,
project managers.
We see the invoices that come into the company. We see the money that comes in, the money that comes out, and all these moving parts that takes to run a business. And it's a lot. And it's things that I would have never imagined. And I'm sure I can speak for both of us. And it's such a blessing, right? It's a blessing, guys. And I think if you're someone that's aiming to have your own company, if you're someone that's aiming to get the most out of this profession, in my opinion, which is having your own practice and being able to say, this is yours, you made that. I think start learning about how to run a business. Start learning presentation skills. Like Nicole said, start learning about communications and marketing, because that's so important, right? Absolutely. It doesn't matter how amazing your design is. If you can't get your design out there, what's the point?
You can't explain your ideas and your concepts. If you can't get that, then...
We've covered it before. Your visual elements of your architecture have to match the written or verbal elements of your architecture just the same. Because if you hand a client, your drawings and then, you kind of talk to them, if you can't have one-on-one conversations with someone or clearly explain, or, sometimes you have to water certain things down so that clients understand, because some of these things are so complex.
Yeah,
if you can't,
you can't assume that every client knows about construction, architecture, or anything. You have to kind of...
They know.
Yeah, well, even if they think they know, you have to bring them back to reality and say, look, this is what we did, this is why we did it. And
I feel like...
And you have to kind of hold their hand through the process so they enjoy the process at the end and they don't get frustrated or they don't get what they expected,
Yeah, I feel like the general public doesn't really know exactly what an architect does and everything that a whole project entails. And I feel like it's our duty to educate them. Well, first of all, educate ourselves, because I'm sure I can speak for all of us, right? Like, now that we've been working and now that we've gotten professional experience throughout the years, we kind of know the process now. But when we graduated, we had no education on exactly what it takes to get a project from beginning
to finish, right?
Because everything you do in school is all theoretical. And the reality is that school does not behave like the actual practice at all, right? It does prepare you and it does teach you to think theoretical and be able to conceptualize a project.
Right.
And teach you the reality. And
which is also
because there's no time to teach you the reality, because just to get to your concept, to get to the final project, at the beginning they gave us 3 weeks for the first semester for 3 projects in 1 semester, just 3 weeks. Imagine. And when the real field, we take up to months to get it completely finished with every detail, everything absolutely to the T thought out.
Years.
Depends on the project and depends on how fast you work.
I don't know, man. Sometimes walls take a long time.
Yeah.
Well, but I know it depends on how complex the project is. I mean, it depends on how your communication is with the client, and they might. I mean, there's different factors.
There's so many variables, and variables is something you have to account for, right? There's something I've learned is that nothing that you do in life, or most of the things that you plan out, they don't go at all.
Right.
At all. How you plan them out. And I'm a person that plans constantly, and I can 100% say that nothing I have planned, at least for this year and last year, have gone how I planned them, whatsoever. Right?
I think your way of explaining what we do is by far one of my favorite. What do you say? We're underpaid professional
problem solvers.
Right.
I like that.
What an architect.
That's brilliant.
Underpaid, I love it. Professional problem solver.
I love it.
Prove me wrong, okay? And you're starting to don't prove me wrong, because you won the game.
Yeah, exactly.
You're not problem solving. You're just doing whatever you want and getting chunks of money for it.
Oh, they're algorithm solving. They already have it going. They're good.
Yeah.
But I think there's also things that now being in the field that I want to implement in the school system. So like I don't know if I speak for all three of us, but I know I speak for Ramses and I. But I definitely would want to go back and teach some of the lessons that I have now in the field. And when I, acquire way more lessons in the field and go back and teach, the valuable things that we're just saying that we wish we could have implemented in our school system into one. Yeah. Because, that's going to break that cycle that we said, people go to school, they go and that's it. Their network is cut off. But as soon as you start, feeding more information and more knowledge into the system, you get better results.
Yeah, I feel like education for architecture now more than ever needs to be altered.
That's our responsibility, though, 100%.
Yeah, but also, I know it's difficult to like formulate a whole educational plan, right? But I feel like it does need to be altered in a way to be, I guess, more in line with like the technologies that we have right now and the realities that we have.
I don't know what happened. I didn't touch it.
It's all good. No worries.
And the realities that we have right now, because not from experience, right? I think our program was amazing, but yeah. I know there's a lot of programs out there that they still teach things like the way that things used to be like 20, 30 years ago. And sadly, that's not how things are anymore, right? I mean, all three of us have seen it firsthand, working for companies that are very classical and kind of like strongly stick to the classical ways or like the old school ways of doing things. And while that works right now, it's going to come to a point where I think personally that those things are going to be obsolete. Yeah. Because the next generation is going to step in and the next generation is very technologically heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Very. And we have to be able to keep up. So we're not those old school that just want to stay in our safety nets and don't want to expand. And we have to still be able in the loop to be able to compete. I mean, it's not going to end here. It's going to keep growing and it's going to get more complex.
Us millennials, we were born at the same time frame as the computer was born.
Yeah, literally.
So we don't have an excuse. Like we need to be learning till the day we die.
Well, we also need to be learning and teaching. Kind of like goes back to like the professional side and the teaching side of it. Like, if someone doesn't know it in the office, kind of like what you said, Ramses, you want to be the best, but you also want to help people out. It's our responsibility to help everyone. We're kind of in that time slot where everything is changing. We're going to pick up the ball and like, we're going to just kind of, hit the ground running. So, but yeah, I think this was a really good conversation. Like, it's always a joy talk architecture with you guys.
Yeah, it was great having you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I really like this. I'm very honored.
Yeah, hopefully you can come back again.
Yeah, whenever you want to have me, so I'll be here.
If you make something, you'll come back again.
Definitely.
So like 10 years from now, show up again.
What do you mean? Wow. I know you probably have so many people right after me to interview.
That's the plan.
Let's see. We'll have you on other platforms too. There's a slew of platforms that we've started out the gate in 2020. So you'll probably be in a bunch of them. So
yeah, you and our 5 followers.
Oh man, but I'm so happy for you guys that you guys are doing this. I wish someone did this while I was in school that I could listen to, that I could follow,
We wish we did this while we were in school.
Yeah, absolutely.
We hate ourselves for waiting this long to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's better late than never, right? At least I know Chris has always thought of this idea and he had it rolling around in his head for a very, very long time. And I kept pushing him like, all right, this summer, you're going to do it this summer. Start from scratch, do something, anything from there. And I mean, after all that work during summer in between semesters, when you actually have a day off, you don't want to do anything. You want to enjoy it. You want to kind of go back to your social life that you kind of lapsed on for the 3 months that you were in the semester.
Yeah.
I mean,
Simple
it's understandable.
Get rid of your social life. Guys, get rid of everyone you love and everyone you care about and just focus on architecture. That's all you need.
Yeah, you could go that route or...
Just kidding.
No, I've done it both and
doesn't
it's fine.
You need people.
You need people to stay sane.
Yeah, I think so.
Nah, you do.
Well, no, we're a big community.
Yeah.
Or else we wouldn't be here talking.
Exactly. I mean,
you know, we wouldn't have made the friendships that we've made if it wasn't that way.
Yeah. But I think that was great. Thank you for all the gems. Thank you for all the insight. We hope to have you back very soon.
Thank you. I hope this conversation helps anybody in the line that we're trying to get into and has a little more information.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
It's another episode of the Architecture Rundown.
Like, subscribe, follow us on YouTube and what is it, Anchor?
Anchor FM, Instagram, LinkedIn, Patreon, Twitter,
everything.
You know, all that good stuff.
Hopefully we'll get more than 5 people. Hopefully we'll get like 10 people.
Yeah.
I think 10 people is a good number to aim for.